Hi, I'm Sophie, and I haven't seen a lot of movies.
Hi, I'm Paul, and I'm here to help with that. And we are
SP Filmviewers.
The circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It is what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are. Very powerful quote from a kids' film. So I was thinking to myself what we would be covering in like the episode before Monster March. I kind of had like a slight epiphany of, as this kind of coincides with, it'll be the 25th anniversary of the Pokemon franchise.
On the 27th of Feb.
Yes. So I thought, well, I'll do something sort of special, and it's very close, very, very close to my heart anyway. And we've both seen the film before, so it's kind of like a rewatch and look back on.
It's the Pokemon the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, versus, bear with me, let me look at my notes, another complicated title, Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution, which is the same film, pretty much.
I wanted to do like a comparison of how it compares to the 2019 remake and featured on Netflix, how it compared, what stays the same, what's different, and I guess coincidentally it kind of does a preemptive thing with tie in with the Monster March unintentionally, but there we go, it's like an earlier one. But
it's all in your plan. But I know obviously Paul mentioned obviously his love for Pokemon. This is kind of a thing which has stemmed from the first like original Pokemon games coming out and everything. So it's not like someone who's just jumped on the bandwagon a bit like me, where your love's come from. It's grown from
day one essentially, as in from when it was over here, of course, because obviously it started way earlier in Japan before.
Oh, if only you were in Japan, eh? You're missing out.
Yeah.
But to be fair, my love of Pokemon has grown quite a bit since I've met Paul. So I did he would probably have been one of, if I was in the school playground with Paul, and you have these Pokemon cards, I used to always want the cute little ones that are probably not that great. And I can imagine some boy kind of seeing me as like a right prized idiot, thinking, oh, okay, gullible little girl.
There's always people like that as well. I had one of the rarer cards. People were like, oh, I'll trade you this, and this for this one card and stuff. But obviously everybody wanted the Charizard because that was like the card to have even back then.
I bet you I would have been one of those people though, that if you'd offered me a cute little fluffy Pokemon that was pink or something like that, like Jigglypuff or something, I would have probably given my shiny Charizard over it and not even known. We do love Pokemon though. We have been luckily enough to go to Japan, being able to go to the Pokemon centres, I think 3.
Yeah, that sounds really bad, but yeah, we've kind of, because there's various different ones in different locations. They tend to have, some are bigger than others, a bit like Disney stores and stuff. They might have certain stock in ones that they don't have in others and stuff, but it's really good to look back on this with fond memories. I try not to cloud myself with too much nostalgia based on this, but it does mean a lot to me, and
I'm waiting for like the 10 panel to come out here.
I'll say this now, I'm not going to, on nostalgia factor, it probably would be really high, but I'm trying to be a bit more lenient critical on it than just that, because obviously that can't be in the same. It's not going to be in the same realms as some of the the major motion pictures that we have covered in our reviews and obviously the entire film history. So
don't get me wrong though, you can high score it just for, I did with The Notebook, for that kind of,
I suppose
the fact that it's close to your heart, it's going to score. I can't imagine you're going to be like a 7 or something ridiculous about it. I'd like to think you'd be scoring a bit higher than that just for nostalgia reasons. To be fair, with the Pokemon films, I think they're really, really good with a message that they do deliver, like that quote that you started off with. And certain scenes where they do say something like, obviously, at the back end, the moral behind the fighting. Even though it's kind of a little bit of a bittersweet thing, because obviously Pokemon battle and fight, anyways and they faint, so it's a bit cruel because, like, if I was going to fight you till you fainted, I don't think in a human world that would be very, very pleasant.
Yeah, it does come across a little conflicted in what it's trying to get as the message, but
I can see the message there. I understand it, and it is a case of not to brutally attack one another. You're meant to do it for fun.
Yeah, just like in sports and
like
wrestling and stuff. It's more of a game as it is really. So yeah, it's I was going to say it's kind of good that you kind of you do see it that way, because most people have seen, like, on other reviews and critics and stuff, like, oh, this is conflicting thing of contradicting itself, like Pokemon is all about battling, and yet they're saying in this film it's fighting is wrong. That is also partly down to the dubbing in this, obviously for the Americans and
right.
US, the company 4Kids, so the studio that does handles the overseas dubbing of the thing, has put that into their repertoire of for wording it that way, so it does come across that way as a bit like, what do you mean? Whereas I think in the Japanese it wouldn't have said that at all, it would have been something else completely.
But I think it might have had the same principle behind it.
Yeah, but just worded a bit better.
Yeah, I think that's definitely it. I noticed as well, though, with the moral behind this one, I do feel like there was a little bit of a kind of for children, like, when they fight and get to a point of where they're getting, not like punching each other, but, like, even just a fallout, I kind of interpreted it that way, like, you shouldn't fall out with somebody to that extent and not apologise. So I've got a thing where if I'm going to bed and me and you've fallen out, I have to have that resolved before I go.
Oh yeah, same
to sleep.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what the fighting was. It's like that needed to be resolved, and the fighting needed to stop, so that Pokemon could go on as normal.
We could also say, obviously, it's dealing with the thing of cloning is a big part of this, is the main drive of the storyline. We've got this Pokemon character Mewtwo, who's created in a genetics lab, and it's the scientists doing the genetic modification to make him the best or the most powerful Pokemon in the whole world.
Power is kind of one of those vicious things, I think. So power is knowledge. Knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
But Mewtwo has power but no knowledge.
Yeah, he comes across as a bit confused about where, his upbringing, and, because he's born in a lab, he has no real true memories, he hasn't grown up like a normal person or animal.
I thought you were going to say Pokemon.
Well, yeah, in that regard as well, but I'm thinking more in a general term. So
Pokemons don't have mummies and daddies, do they? They grow out of an egg.
Yeah, but who makes the egg? What came first? Pokemon or the egg?
I don't know. You just find them in the grass, don't you? You don't find...
There's got to be parents to make the eggs.
Oh, you breed, don't you?
You breed. Well, not in these games. The first things you don't. That wasn't until Gen 2. So.
All right.
Anyway. So, obviously, there's the thing of the humans having no real concern of, like, well, they just see him as just an experiment, as he kind of states. He figures out for himself that he's kind of like, well, what am I here for, kind of thing. There's a bit of like a existential crisis of, like, what is my purpose? What am I? Why am I here?
Me of a bit of a moody teenager, a little bit, with the what's my purpose? Why am I here? And he was like having like a little bit of a strop, like, why have you created me? That's how I kind of interpreted it. Like, well, be grateful because you're alive, otherwise you wouldn't be here if they hadn't created you.
Yeah,
they've created you very, very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're going to go and blow them all up, aren't you?
Which is quite dark for a kid's film, isn't it, really?
It is, and he doesn't even give him chance to kind
reconcile, no.
Yeah, like, it just doesn't feel a connection with him. He feels like they've abused him, in a sense, really.
Mm-hmm.
And he feels a bit betrayed of that factor, so moody outbreak.
It can be a bit confusing now. I would think, like, I don't understand anything.
Yeah, but give him a chance to explain it to you. They might have gone through that with him if they'd have given him a chance, but no, he didn't. He just blew him up.
Yeah, but they weren't even more thing. They were just more concerned about, we can carry on doing our research with you now, and just further testing and all that.
But then he gets stumbling onto the wrong hands anyways, doesn't he?
Yeah, because he's created by leader of Team Rocket, who's
I didn't know that
like the thing. You do have to kind of like know a little bit about the TV show and maybe the games as well, because it's for context a little bit. So, particularly, I know you've already seen it, but on a standpoint of somebody who isn't very big into the whole franchise and knows a lot about it, how that might reflect on somebody who is coming into this fairly fresh and be like, oh, who's this person? What's the context with that person?
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, you could just think it's just a bad guy, but for somebody like me who knows all about it, be like, oh yes, that is that major character in the series or thing. So
I only knew it when the two main Team Rocket kind of came along.
Mm-hmm.
And, when they've got the R on the T-shirt, to make it a bit more obvious, yes. And then Meowth, which I have a bit of a gripe about that. Why is he allowed to talk? No other Pokemon talks, apart from Pikachu that says his own name.
Well, most of the other Pokemon say their own name.
But no other Pokemon talks. Why is Meowth...
Except Mewtwo. He's got...
Yeah, but that's explained. Like, does Meowth have psychic powers?
No.
So why can he talk? He shouldn't be allowed. He's a cat. My cat, Arthur, doesn't talk to me.
No, he doesn't, no.
He meows.
But he doesn't vocalise like a normal person, no.
And that would freak me out if he did, to be fair. I feel like it'd be this old man voice that'd come out of him.
Again, this is another thing of knowing from the TV franchise, really. So it's kind of explained through that. So again...
Is it actually explained?
Yeah, it's, in
so
one of the
it's
episodes.
Not just a case of, he talks in that one, so he's
People
allowed
do bring it up sometimes, like, is it talking Meowth or whatever, and there is an episode dedicated to, his past of why he does what he does, but...
Are you going to tell me?
Basically, it's to do with, he falls in love with another Meowth,
Aww.
And he wants to impress her, because she's a very, like, posh, upper class...
He is a bit common Meowth, this one is, isn't he?
So he learns to talk to, to mean impress her, and he it's like stand up on his legs properly and everything, rather than just on all fours and such. So that's the reason.
Does it work?
No, of course it doesn't.
Oh, that's sad, that is. No, I don't know if
yeah.
Anyway. She hadn't told me now.
Mm-hmm. So, Giovanni, who's this boss from Team Rocket, he purposely wanted to have Mewtwo created, so that he can harness his power, basically be like, all right, I'm the best trainer, though. So you basically making it come across in like a quick succession of like sequences of like, he's got his armor that he's built for him to sort of like
suppress
what he says, or being focused, as he says in the thing. But it's all just really
my
just a pack of lies, really.
Why make him so powerful if he's suppressing his powers now? Like, don't make him that powerful. Well, then that was like straight
obviously
away.
It's the like still wanting to control him. It's like I've got all this power, but I don't want it to go and let loose because I'm going to be in trouble. Which kind of
just don't give him that much power. Then obviously he didn't need that much power.
I guess you got your human greed. They're like wanting more than they need.
Yeah, I guess. So then it moves on nicely to having Ash, which is your main Pokemon trainer.
Yeah.
And obviously he has Pikachu as his Pokemon, if you did not know.
Yeah, the biggest mascot of the franchise.
Which Paul secretly hates to love. It's a bit like Marmite, isn't it, for you?
Yeah, it's more really because of, especially in the anime and the film, he's kind of like, he's just OP, really, and it's just...
My love for Pikachu grows every time I watch the first film, which is the Pokemon first movie. The name is absolutely rubbish. Like, they haven't even...
What do you mean?
The first movie, like...
why is the first movie?
Yeah, so why do you need to call it that then? If it's the first movie, everyone's going to know it's the first movie. Just call it Pokemon.
I think obviously they have the intention of, right, well, this is the first movie, so there's going to be a whole lot more.
So then it's going to go to Pokemon the second movie. It's like, it's such a lazy title.
It's a bit, but...
It really is. And then you've got this subtitle where it's like Mew Strikes Back, and it's like, why don't you just call it that then? So then nobody's getting confused. That's just what the movie's called.
Although, another thing we haven't touched on, I've kind of glossed over, is the fact that in the Japanese version, there is a bit more context at the beginning with Mewtwo in the lab as to why he is how he is. They're kind of growing him from a young Mewtwo. It sounds weird.
Baby Mewtwo,
essentially. and that gives a bit more context behind, like him sort of like learning things about like what things are, and where he can sort of like has these distant memories, but doesn't really know as to what they are, because is it just a dream for him, that kind of stuff.
It does add a bit more value to the story, and you kind of feel a bit more for Mewtwo.
Because I had to show you that context after the fact, because for some reason they didn't show that in the English version. It's only in the Japanese one, or it was all like an extra on another DVD after the fact, where it's like, I feel like that really adds something a bit more context to things, and it would explain things a little easier. I don't know why they cut it. I think they were scared, thinking, it would be too sad for the kids or something, or they just go over their heads. I don't know, but I think it
what American like, they kind of want you to just have a baddie, and it's like the Walt Disney kind of baddie and goodie. No, but I do think it adds definitely value to it. I think it's one of those things where I was a bit disappointed on this one, especially that there was no subtitles, kind of like it was just English. I was straight away when you put it on, I was like, do I not have to read?
No, unfortunately, I don't know why they don't have it. I really would like it if they made a Blu-ray or something where it was available to be on with a Japanese track, and then English subtitles go along with it. That'd be great. But again, it's releasing rights to the Warner Brothers or whoever the distributor is, kind of thing. So it's and there wasn't, sadly, on the disc, there wasn't even like an English subtitle track to just have on, like read underneath so you know what they're saying, for names and stuff. But there was like nothing on the disc, annoyingly. So it's kind of like
really strange, because I was like, really thought it's Japanese.
Yeah,
I'd be
definitely.
And I feel like I don't know.
Yeah, it's odd. I guess it might be odd for you now to look at anime in that way, kind of like, oh, this is just in.
And Ash's voice annoyed me a little bit. The American version, I'm sorry. Okay. But yeah, it did. It just seemed a bit too.
Well, that's just what we've grown up with, and so same for people in the States and most places. So that's just how it is. And
Paul's like, deal with it.
I do admit it's, but but that's, especially back then, that's all you had to go off of. You didn't have the option for.
But I feel like you should now. There should be something. Pokemon is so popular. Like, I'm sorry to be honest. I feel like they could make a good book out of republishing a film that had subtitles and Japanese.
Mm-hmm. Who knows? Maybe after for this year they might come out. The typical would be like, oh, it's a new.
Paul will be buying it anyway, so don't worry. Yeah. So they get invited to a party or a training event competition.
But before that, they have the little. Obviously, you got the other characters he's traveling with, who are his friends from the TV series. Again, it's like, for somebody who doesn't know about who these people are, going to just.
Mm-hmm. So you've got
Misty and Brock.
Yeah, I didn't know who Brock was when I initially heard it. I was like, Rock. Misty, I know, because obviously she's got Togepi.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who Brock's Pokemons were. You had to tell me, because my other beef is, I did actually say to you, didn't I? Obviously, Pikachu, why is he always walking around? He's not in his ball. Mm-hmm. And Togepi, he's not. So then Brock's like, well, who's your Pokemon? Because everybody else's Pokemon's walking around freely.
Yeah.
So do you want to say?
All I can say is it's just, again, sorry to sound like a broken record already, but it's just television thing to explain those situations. That Pikachu doesn't have a Pokeball because he just refuses to go in one. Togepi hatched from an egg in the TV series, so it doesn't have a Pokeball to go into there.
She could put it in a Pokeball, though.
But she didn't have one, so
she could buy one that don't cost much.
But Brock doesn't have one. That he's just like a normal trainer who wouldn't have Pokemon just walking around freely, because he wouldn't.
He hasn't built up that relationship, obviously, has he?
Yeah.
So Pikachu's relationship with Ash is quite a strong one.
Well, yeah.
And it's really cute and endearing. And Togepi's just, well. So I do like the fact that they're out and about, but if Brock could have had one as well, I wouldn't have minded seeing that, to be fair.
Yeah, but it hasn't got really, to be honest, any really iconic ones that you can just have walking around.
To be fair, I didn't know Togepi was so iconic, to be honest.
Well, it's one of those things because a bit like having one of the Pokemon that appears in this trainer battle with this pirate character who's like apparently looking around everywhere asking, is someone called Ash from Pallet Town?
Oh yeah.
So God, he must have been walking around every island or wherever just for this specific person. Like,
that sounds a little bit wrong, really, doesn't it?
In that context, doesn't it? So yeah, it's again from the TV series. It's kind of like this rare Pokemon that nobody knows about, i.e. Togepi, because that was from the Pokemon that's going to appear in the next set of games. So it's kind of like
in Gen 2.
Yes, Gen 2. Bringing in a new Pokemon. It's like this teaser for what's upcoming thing. They do like to do this now. Even today, they kind of like introduce this rare Pokemon that nobody's seen before, and it's going to appear in the next set of games. Or
I like that though.
Thing. So you have that the same in one of the battles that we have here. This elephant one, Donphan for anybody's interested, but obviously people be like, "Oh, what's that? I've never seen that before."
You mean you would be like that when you initially saw it? You mean, is that what response you had?
Probably did. Although to be honest, I probably like they'd be plastered in the magazines and stuff for all the promotional stuff, because obviously it'd been in Japan before that. So then obviously when it came to maybe a year on or so, when it came around to us, we probably would have known most of that information from magazines or something. So
right.
But obviously it's still like, ooh, that's interesting and like exciting.
Yeah.
I remember this being everything to me when I saw it in the cinemas anyway. And
oh,
yeah.
Would you have given it a 10?
Probably would have.
How old was you when you saw it in the cinema?
Well, it came out in 99, I think. So
born in 1989.
So I'd be about 10 years old, because I was born in 89.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, 10 years old.
Did you go with your mum and your dad?
It was just my dad who took me.
Did you fall asleep?
Yeah, of course it is.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Oh. Can you imagine little 10-year-old Paul sat there like, Dad, this is amazing. Did you not dig him in the side?
No.
Are you two just like eyes glued? You didn't even care what he was doing. Bless you.
So as the plot moves along and they end up invited to this island for this match with the greatest Pokemon trainer ever.
They kind of in this one make it a little bit more mysterious, don't they?
Yeah, in comparison to the other one.
Trainer
is.
Yeah,
because there's like a long shot distance from it, so it's kind of like
you just...
even though I think I've probably like even my child mind like I kind of know what's going on here really. Even at that age, it wasn't like
it's not unpredictable, but it is one of those things where it does leave it for you to kind of assume.
Yeah.
But the other one literally spoon feeds you because, like, in the original, it kind of just shows a chair which looks ominous and like a baddie.
Yeah.
A baddie chair.
Layer. Yeah.
Where
the other one's like panning the camera around.
Literally,
look what's happening.
It's Mewtwo. Like this is the baddie kind of thing. There's no, you don't even have to think. It just. So
it's kind of playing on the fact that it is, a remake and sort of like knowing. For the people who know what the film is, then that's kind of the same thing. So we don't have to be too like mysterious about it.
I think that kind of spoils it. I think they needed that in there because it is. I get it for all the Pokemon lovers out there; they'll already know. But like if you put in a new,
I don't think it wouldn't be necessary. Just keep it as it was, sort of thing. But anyway,
putting a new little child to watching it, that shock factor impact is no longer there.
No. Yeah. The Mewtwo's bringing up this storm to sort of like a means of testing trainers to come to my island only if you feel brave enough to do so. I guess it really in a means of steal their Pokemon, because obviously if they've managed to get out there, they must be strong trainers
or strong Pokemon
with strong Pokemon. Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, he's hypnotized Nurse Joy at the moment to think that he's her master, and that she's been there for several years or since ever she's aware. So you have this quite tragic scene of how they get over to the island. So obviously someone's got a Pidgeot.
Although they do say that in the thing, they get that wrong in the dubbing. So it's like,
oh, that sounds like something I'd do.
Nitpicking there, but it's like a very big like, oh, come on. Do you know like who wrote this? Obviously, did not go back through it and go
Paul's
correct
like,
this.
you could have just given my 10-year-old self, and I could have corrected it. Did you actually sit there in the cinema and go wrong?
I probably did, and I'm like, what? That's not. Didn't shout out loud or anything, but I'm thinking, no, that's all right. And they do it a couple of times as well throughout the thing. It's just like, oh,
you mentioned it and you pointed it out, and you know what? I went, to be fair, I wouldn't have even known. Yeah, if anything, it's a bit miseducational, because I'd have gone, oh, right, that Pokemon is called, I don't know, whatever, for example.
Yeah.
And I'd be saying to you, oh, well, and then my argument would be, well, the Pokemon movie said so, Paul. Mm-hmm. And actually it's wrong.
Yes, 3 times.
So that's not great. But I think that's obviously nothing to do with the actual film. It's obviously somebody converting it into English has messed that up. Because I can't imagine the Japanese version being incorrect naming Pokemon.
But then they refer to it as their Japanese name, so I've no true idea. So
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they have different namings, the localization of depending on the countries and stuff. So
like, how many Pokemon are out there to all different names in different countries? Like, whose job is that? Because that could take more than one person's day, or like that's like a full-time job, renaming Pokemons in different language. Like, I thought everybody, maybe I'm really naive, I literally thought everywhere else had the same name, and they just did it for like English and Japanese.
No, but it might be a rough translation into that, but I think for the most part it's kind of its own.
That's something I love about the Japanese, that if they're going to do something, they're going to do it right.
Yeah. Anyway, why would you say this is a tragic scene?
So it's the way that they throw the Pokemons at the water, and they're like, right, okay, gale force winds, flooding weather, come on, let's fly in a hurricane. Would you do that to any animal? No. And then you kind of vicious tsunami, waves and everything like that. Yeah, just get on me Gyarados and, go through the sea in treacherous weather. Like, if that was us, we'd be like on a yellow or some red warning to be like, stay at home, don't go out.
Yeah, I know what you said, but again, you got to give it some leeway because it's in like a fantasy world, so you kind of got.
And the little kids
mean magical creatures, so
that are going on the back of these things. Like, for me as an adult, I'm like, well, my child would not be doing that.
Well, they allow in the games, and the TV shows, you allow a 10-year-old child to just go out into the wide world with dangerous creatures. But yeah, again, it's another story.
Obviously, though, only 6 in total, isn't the Pokemon trainers that make the cut?
Yeah, you do see one who flies on another Pokemon, Fearow, for those who are interested, but you don't see where that person ends up, so you assume either they just gave up or something happened to them.
Is that the long hair, long neck?
Yeah,
bird?
The brown one. Yeah,
a knockoff version of Pidgey.
Yeah, and just another bird Pokemon. Yeah. So they get to the island after that, and you meet all your other trainers. It's good to see a nice variety of sorts, really, with the teams. Kind of like they've got pretty much a team of 6, which is like what is in the games and all that stuff. So it's kind of like, and they're fully evolved pretty much. So that's a step up from what Ash and his friends have. Yeah, they're all like weak, so they had to go on a boat with Team Rocket, because again, that was another thing that annoys me. So, well, you could have made it across if you had something a bit stronger to swim on, but there we go.
But they have to be cute, don't they? So like the cutest as their little
to sell the merchandise and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway,
and as well, Team Rocket had to play. That scene though was a bit different in the remake as well, which actually I preferred the original.
See a slight pattern here, which is kind of. And then we briefly get to know the people. Oh, we don't really know the names. They don't even really say the names. They're kind of like, here's my Pokemon.
It's pretty much like the game, really.
Yeah, showing up. And then Mewtwo then shows himself, comes down the, I don't know what you call it, a staircase, which is like, and then descends from Yeah, I guess you could say that, yeah. Himself down. I gotta admit, that did, even to now when it's kind of like, when it gets a bit atmospheric there, when it's like he's just about to reveal, did kind of like, a little bit of like, ooh, goosebumpy in a way, kind of like, even though, I've seen it so many times and it's not really that impactful, just for that one bit where they kind of just like, oh, in anticipation of what's going to happen with them.
No, I don't really get that one, but I could understand for you, possibly, and a boy kind of thing, whereas I was just like, oh, can we kill him already, or can we get rid of him so that he's not a mean kind of character anymore?
But that's a long way off, really.
Yeah, it gets a bit brutal after the fact that when Mewtwo comes on the scene and you kind of see what he's doing with the cloning and the fact that he wants to steal the Pokemons to clone them, and then he's going to basically, a bit like Noah's Ark, wipe out.
Yeah, mass genocide of everybody. Now, he says in the film that he doesn't want to spare the Pokemon that the trainers have, because obviously they've disgraced themselves, being slaves to them. Now, I don't know if he went out into the open world and like saw that there was like a load of free range Pokemon. Would he, if his plan continued, would he be like, oh, you can right, because you don't belong to anybody, you're just
free ranging?
Yeah.
So do you think he needed to build an ark?
Just get all the ones that are wild and just like, yeah, just right.
Batu, hurrah. So you start to see where they try and battle like a Squirtle on a Squirtle, or, well, that's not a Squirtle, was it?
So you got the 3 starters evolutions ones, which...
Wait, let me see if I can name him. Charizard. Yes. Oh, this is hard. I'm thinking of Bulbasaurus? No.
Well, is that, but the...
Venusaurus.
Yeah, Venusaur.
Yes. I want to say Blastoise.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
Woo! Yes! I was going to say Shell Shocker, but I knew that had been wrong.
No, that's the nickname that the girl trainer gives her one. I'll tell you off the top of there for a moment, fun fact. Not fun fact really, but I thought the Venusaur, what I thought it was called Brutefoot. I misheard that, but obviously now listen back to it again and over this time and obviously a couple times before. Now I know that it's called Root, which makes a lot more sense really, because obviously of what it is. But I don't know that I always call mine Brutefoot anyway in the games that I've got, because I think that's what it sounds like, and it's got like a big heavy stompy thing.
Oh, you're cute, aren't you?
Yeah, so they brings out these clones.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Out of the 3 starter Pokemon, when you got your first game, was Pikachu in this as well? Could you pick Pikachu, or did you just get given him?
I'm going to say, because of the fact, officially the first game I ever played was Pokemon Yellow, which came out a bit later didn't have a Game Boy straight away. So I had like Game Boy when the Game Boy Color came out, which is a bit later on after the fact. So I didn't have Red and Blue straight away, which is where you got the 3 starters from. You know, Pikachu was just within the grass in that one. So technically, I did start with Pikachu because I played on Pokemon Yellow, and that's the starter you have, and then you get the other ones later on through the game. So that is the official answer to that one, really. But
now his hate for Pikachu has grown.
But I think I feeling it really should have been Charmander, really. But I think it was probably Squirtle.
Squirtle.
I don't think it was ever really Bulbasaur.
No, I don't think I think I would agree. Charmander or Squirtle. So we've stepped back from the movie. So going back to the movie, I just like to put these little quotes in or find out a little bit more about Paul while we can, since it's one of his main loves. So obviously you've got the clone and the original Pokemon now battling. So you've got like Charmander, Charizard. Why do I keep doing this? Charizard battling one another. Okay. And obviously the clone is appearing a lot stronger at the moment than the original. So you kind of see these sad scenes where they're kind of getting battered down quite easily.
So after the fight with the Charizard and stuff, there's the 3-on-3. Then Mewtwo, as the victor, then steals everybody else's Pokemon for means of cloning, then to get obviously stronger versions of the Pokemon from them, and then God knows what he does with the other ones, where he just melts them down into goo. I don't know.
I hope not. So there's this quite sad scene,
Yeah.
so this is probably why I've
Yeah.
wanted to put this at the back of my head, because I know.
Because it's, because all the Pokemon are trying to defend, well, some of them are anyway, some of them just stand there, but
Yeah,
to be fair,
and some of the trainers, like, for example, Ash doesn't seem too bothered about his Squirtle.
He just recalls them into the balls, but then the balls get sucked into balls, so it's kind of like, it's like, what?
But he doesn't fight as much as he does for the Pikachu.
No, that's not favouritism.
But Pikachu, bless him, he does try a hell of a lot harder.
Yeah, you said this really upsets you, and he's like, and he's
really trying, and he's like trying Pikachu, and you can see he's like getting to a point of where he's so exhausted, and he's like, I can't do it anymore. He's like, Pikachu, and I'm like, well, just leave him alone. But Ash does kind of gets him into a ball, doesn't he? But he goes after Pikachu, and destroys the machine
lab. Which I said to you on last thing, it's like, well, I don't know where, other than the fact maybe Nurse Joy got the supplies to rebuild this lab that he destroyed. Don't know where they got all the resources to build and this technology, but there you go.
That's true.
You just kind of have to overlook that, I guess.
Yeah, you do. I do think, though, with the Pikachu scene in the original, I get a bit more emotionally attached to that animation. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel as upset, not meaning that it didn't impact me, it did, but it didn't seem to be within the 3D remake as emotional for me. I don't know really why. I don't know if it was the music or if it's just the way that it said Pikachu. No. I know that sounds daft.
No. Well, we'll get into those aspects near the back end, but just to move the story on, we then it comes to a part where sort of the big fight with all the clones versus clones, and it's kind of like, I suppose you kind of like assume, when you kind of said like which is the clone and which isn't, and it's like, well, you kind of have to assume, I suppose, that the ones that are beating the other one up a lot more like seem to be winning that struggle, but really should maybe have some distinguishing features to separate them from that.
I think it went okay, actually, on the original. I think it's more...
But anyway.
The other one, I think it works well.
Except for the song that plays over that, it's a bit like so cheese. So.
It's something to do with brother, isn't it?
Yeah, don't be fighting and all that stuff. And
I think it kind of makes it more emotional, though, but a little bit like a lesson learned-ish.
One of the things I'll give credit for in the 2019 remake is that it's kind of like using a score as the music in that part, and that's a bit more fitting with the fighting rather than this cheesy pop song.
Doesn't make you feel any remorse as such. It's more like a battle scene where you're not really getting as upset in the remake, whereas I think in the other one, in the original, it does make me feel a little bit more sad and remorse and like, no, stop fighting. Yeah. That message is put forward more.
So it's about this point then that we get that, the Pokemon aren't meant to fight, not like this kind of thing, and then the contrived message of like, well, confusing for somebody like, well, it's fighting's wrong, but in the sporting way that it's fine because of how they're doing it over these, this whole correlation of like animals fighting, bullfighting and all that kind of stuff, and dog fights and all that kind of stuff, but it's not in that way in the context of the thing. You've got to separate that part of it from the context of what it's on about.
Yeah, no, I get
world, but
what you're meaning. But I think it's more of a child message behind it, isn't it?
The means of what they're doing in this context of fighting is not the way it should be.
Yeah, it's aggressive, and it's one of those things where it's not for fun. Neither one really want to do it, and you can tell that they're being forced upon the will to fight, which is never nice. So, for example, the bit that gets me is where all the other kind of Pokemons are one-on-one against one another, whereas Pikachu, beloved Pikachu, Ash's Pikachu, doesn't want to fight. Yeah. And that's the bit that gets me. So he's like taking slaps from this other Pikachu, going, pew, Pew! And you can see that this other Pikachu doesn't want, but obviously Mewtwo's psychic powers are making him do what he's not wanting to do, and he's like near enough verging on tears. But I think it's making it even harder because this other Pokemon, like Pikachu's not going after him, he's not attacking him. So that type of aggressiveness would kind of stop in a sense, because when somebody slaps you, you get aggravated normally, and you slap them back, and then that gets them more annoyed, and then the anger and everything like that builds up and builds up. Whereas if somebody's not retaliating, that feeling of guilt slowly will overcome you, because it's like, well, that person's not retaliating, I'm a bad person.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what this other... really, really putting too much feeling into these Pokemons, but that's how I feel when I watch the original, that you feel a bit of remorse and that he doesn't want to do it, and because Pikachu's not fighting back, it's somewhat making it harder on the other Pikachu. Do you get me?
I get what you mean, yeah. I think that's what they were trying to get across as well, because, you know, Pikachu's like, no, I don't want to fight. He's got the right morals behind it. He's loving that fighter thing, although he's a fighter, but in certain circumstances he is. But we also haven't actually really touched upon the fact that, you know, the other player in the whole film centered around anyway is Mew, who appears in, you know, to everybody at this point.
He says his name too, doesn't he?
Does.
Mew.
Yeah.
Mew. Not as cute as Pika Pika.
Yeah, it's cute though.
Mew is cute, yeah. Not
very
Mewtwo
playful.
Isn't cute.
No.
I like Mew.
So yeah, it's kind of like, as it's been said throughout, it's Mewtwo has come from Mew, so I guess that's related in that way.
Yeah, it's like Mew is the bigger brother, even though Mewtwo is more powerful, and you would think that Mew was like the little sibling, the way he's so dinky, and Mewtwo's like, isn't he?
Yeah. So there's another thing about that is, again, it's like there was another very rare thing, and you couldn't get Mew in the games or anything. It was like one of those urban myths about like how to get it. You did something in the game where you like pressed A near a truck or something, and then you like several times, and then you did this other thing, and then you fly this and here, there, and everywhere in the game, and then that triggered an event where Mew would appear. But it's just one of those things that was just like a load of nonsense, and it's just, you know, like playground whispers, kind of thing. So it was just one of those funny things. But these what like makes him like an elusive character within the film.
I think I like Mew, but I think my problem is I've noticed we've watched a couple of Pokemon movies, and the same principle is always to do with Mew too, being like the baddie, and it's like, can we not move on now? We've done that. I know the franchise has that, but could we not create a new movie? Even like Detective Pikachu, they wanted Mew too, and
he was one of the main things of it.
Yeah, it's like, can we just not see another Pokemon? Like, you've got so many.
People know what it is because it's a sad thing, but people not know a lot of Pokemon from the Red and Blue games, the Gen 1. The Gen 1ers, as people call them, who just get us hung up on the fact that, you know, everybody knows these ones because they're the most popular. Everybody played when they were kids, kind of thing. So it's kind of like hanging on to that aspect of it, but...
I get what you're brand new, but I mean, there is other options of Pokemon that they could use.
Ultimately, this all leads down to a big thing where Mew and Mewtwo have a standoff, and Ash gets caught in the crossfire trying to sacrifice himself for the greater good of it, and he gets petrified to stone
or steel.
In the other one, it looks more like that way. Yeah,
it looks like a Monopoly piece.
Yeah, exactly. And this what is supposed to be the sad.
What do you mean? What is supposed to be? It is.
It's. I think I can't remember if I was crying when I saw it when I was little, but
come on, you must have been. You don't have a heart. If you love Pokemon and you wasn't going to cry at Pikachu crying and getting so upset and yet again exhausting himself, he needed a cup of tea afterwards or something sweet because he'd had a tough day at Pikachu.
Batteries,
I felt, I don't care about Ash. I felt for Pikachu. He'd run a marathon, used all his electric bolts near enough, trying to run away from the Pokeballs, then seen his dad, pretty much, because that's what a trainer is, near enough.
Legal guardian.
Yeah. turned to stone, then trying to bring him back, exhausting himself in that capacity.
Yeah.
And didn't you feel genuinely like that Pikachu was upset in this?
Oh yeah. I'm not going to deny that's not the case, because it definitely comes across more that strongly.
It's like that story from, I think they've got a statue in Japan. I can't remember the name. The loyal dog.
Yes.
Who kind of went to the hospital and would stay.
Master's side, or
stay in that one spot until his master came back.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I think of Pikachu as. Like, he is that loyal.
There might be something in that,
pet.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those that connection that Ash and Pikachu have is really special. That obviously Pikachu makes all the other Pokemons upset and cry.
There are two things here. One, his actual friends and whatnot aren't grieving at all. They think, the friends like dead on the floor.
I feel like I get more emotion from the actual Pokemons than I do the people, to be fair, in this entire movie.
Think, they don't even not even go over to him or anything like that.
They don't look shocked.
Are you okay? It's kind of like you're not going to do anything. There's no emotion from them there, which is I find really strange, to be honest. And the other factor is, what do you think of the fact that, is this a good message for kids? Like, if you cry hard enough, you can bring people back from the dead. Do you think that comes across that way? In a way, like, tears fix everything, you're not crying hard enough.
I guess you could kind of manipulate it that way, but in my opinion, you have to go with they are mythical creatures. Yeah. They're not real, and it's a special magic power that they've got, that they can do that.
Which they kind of pepper in with a story from one of the other side characters that before with the storm, she kind of like tells this mythical tale of like the powers of the water, where the tears mourned for the loss of people, and they've got them special powers from that. So it's kind of like sprinkling that.
Yes.
Pardon the pun. To bring that back around. So, but for me, it's the part leading up to this where the kind of like it all gets resolved and everything, and then for me this time and a couple of times since, I think that piece of music that's playing when you're kind of like ascending to go off to their distant land after Mewtwo's like, I've changed my mind about thing, human sacrificed himself, and it's like, right, I'm gonna try and better myself and take these guys with me. But the music and that is like that really hits me in the feels. I don't know why. It really just, I guess it's just a nostalgia thing as part of it, but I really like that piece of music. It's a
good score, isn't it? Really, and it's one of those things where obviously nostalgia for you. It's coming. You told me that you really liked it, and actually, to be fair, the first time I watched it, I'm really bad. I don't probably listen to it as much as I'd have thought. The initial watch, you're kind of watching and not really listening to what is playing. Yeah. Whereas I kind of made a conscious effort with this one, where you were mentioning it to me, to listen to it a little bit more in depth than I would have done probably normally. Yeah. Which is beautiful. I think literally the music behind the first original film, apart from the brother one, but
but the actual musical score arrangement. So, one of the best things about it in my eyes, really.
Yeah. You like a lot of score films.
I do, yeah.
Like Jurassic Park.
It definitely has an impact on what makes scenes more powerful, and just that you can like sort of pinpoint certain scenes to that, and things like that. So it's kind of a good strong effect on me when watching films, and this one is no different, really. So then we do get this, what seems like a bit of a reverse on the whole thing. What have the characters learned though? Where kind of like they forget everything. Mewtwo like takes this knowledge with him about, right, I'm going to better myself, but everybody else, you forget about it. So they don't really learn anything from.
But I guess that it's not their lesson to learn, is it? They've already got that. That actually, it doesn't mean about fighting. It's the heart. Guess, they already know that, and they don't need to be remembered of that. That's what I think Mewtwo's. He's thinking he's being heartful by saying, right, okay, I'm going to wipe your memories, because it was too traumatic. You don't need to remember it, really.
I suppose. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, he's learned, but everybody else doesn't need to because they know in their hearts that that's the good and proper way of. Well, yeah, okay, good point.
Why, thank you.
And then so that pretty much wraps it up on.
And to be fair, Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution is pretty much the same.
In most regards, yeah, I will say so.
It's the same storyline. It doesn't really veer, apart from obviously, like we said, Mewtwo is made more apparent that he is the baddie. Within it, there's no kind of hiding behind that.
No, there's obviously this is the Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution Netflix film. Obviously, going through more of a 3D rendered effect, which I don't, for the most parts, doesn't really play to its strengths at all. The characters, even from trailers, are sort of like they look like plastic dolls.
Oh, it's so weird. The like literally the characters, the human people don't look real at all. But the Pokemon, and you have to give credit where credit's due. They do look good.
Yeah, for the most part, they do look good. There's certain, especially some interpretations of how some Pokemon look. They do look a lot stronger than even like from in the games and stuff. Sometimes they look really good. And the only other really good parts with the 3D elements are like the weather and effect, like with the sea and storm and everything.
More bubbles as well in the tank when Mewtwo's about to erupt out of it.
Yeah. So those elements look really good. I'll give them credit for that.
You even mentioned as well, like the camera angles have got like different kind of ways of panning round and stuff like that.
We've got more to work with, I suppose. But
yeah,
I ultimately think I'm a stickler for preferring 2D over 3D in my animation. I think that's never going to change. I don't think. I always prefer, especially well done, like hand drawn animation style is always the way to go for me, rather than 3D where you can be, and it shows in this interpretation a bit lazy and it just doesn't look genuine. Everything's a bit slow and
I don't know if it's
too smooth,
overdone. Like
it doesn't look impactful enough. Weirdly, which is
perfect. Which I know that sounds weird. I prefer it to be a little bit more raw, like you're saying.
Definitely.
And to be fair with Pikachu, I didn't feel it with this Pikachu. Like, the other one made me really want to cry. And it's like, well, it's near enough the same dialogue. If anything, I would prefer it because obviously this one gave you an option to have it in Japanese.
Which we did for this watch anyway. We'd seen it, obviously, English, normal voices, and it's like, yeah, it's and obviously they haven't got the original cast or anything. It's obviously different people, so it's a struggle. But yeah, it's like to watch this one, I wanted to see it in the Japanese audio and the subtitles because I think that would probably get me through it a bit better to experience that again, rather than just what essentially the same sort of dialogue coming from just English speaking.
Well, you're struggling to get through it and you love Pokemon. How do you think I felt?
Yeah,
having to watch the same movie pretty much, but worse.
But I thought this is being in the opportunities, because there's no other time I would be like to do like a comparison side by side other than for this. Really, there'd be no real reason to do so. So
it's like, how's there a way to make Sophie watch 2 Pokemon movies in one day that are exactly the same, apart from one is a hell of a lot better than the other?
And also with this one, there's not a bit of lack of music really, which kind of makes the scenes a bit empty, which
lacks the emotion.
It does, and it's kind of like there was, like I say, there was a bit of some scores now I didn't pick on a bit more this time, but the other one has so much more ingrained with the score and everything in the background. I kind of got used to that. So then when I'm seeing scenes in this new version, it's kind of like, well, that seems a bit like there's nothing there, and it's kind of odd. It's like so quiet.
It makes it feel like there's a bit of a void missing, doesn't there, really?
But
it is a bit strange how, say it's a remake, you would think that it would have, obviously it's got more better technology, better animation, obviously it's in 3D. It should have all these perks going for it, but I feel like it kind of brings it down a little bit. I think the emotion didn't hit me half as much, which was a disappointment, because how can something that's a remake that has more technology, how can it actually not touch?
Worse,
how can it not touch me? Whereas the other one, I was like kind of near enough going to cry. This one was like no tears whatsoever. In my advice, I probably would say, if you wanted to watch one of them, watch the first movie.
Well, I'm definitely on the same page as you on that one, which you probably already guessed that was going to be the case because...
Well, to be fair, I think he might have not wanted to marry me if I hadn't have said that. It's a big thing is Pokemon. Like, literally, there is a thing where I say to Paul, Pokemon or Sophie. And there's a debate of, well, are the Pokemon actually real or is it just the game? Like, then it's like, well, what if Pokemon were real, Paul? What would happen then?
We'd live in the world where Pokemon, so you couldn't get rid of...
No, for the Pokemon to become real, I no longer exist.
Oh.
Now, what's the answer? I was like, is there a way I could get you back? Because I just would like to try.
I'll just cry tears and then you'll come to it. I'll clone you with a strand of hair and then you'll come into existence. There we go.
So you'd rather have a clone of me and live with a world full of Pokemon than have the real me? Is that what you're saying?
As the film just explains, the clone is stronger than the original, apparently.
Yeah, so that means that the podcast would be even better. I'd be even more opinionated and annoying.
Okay, so now comes the part where we try and give this a score of some description.
Are you going first? Or are you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm really scared of what to give it because I'm trying to go with my critical head. Mm-hmm. But as well, it did give me a bit of emotional side. So that, to me, or anything that, if I was scoring a film in general, if it pulls on my heartstrings, I am going to overmark it, even if it's not fantastic, to be fair. Because I have done that in the past.
Okay.
So I'm not going to stop just because...
No, but I'd say, a bit like I said for Emily, where it's like, based on your enjoyment of the film. I know you've seen it before, but you might have obviously got something a bit more from it this time. And I know, obviously, on reflection of, in comparison to the other one as well. Easily
for the remake, Pokemon...
The first movie.
No, so I'm gonna go back to topsy-turvy.
Okay,
here.
sorry.
So Mewtwo strikes back.
Evolution, the Netflix one. Yeah, just call it that, the Netflix one.
So I'm gonna score that one first.
Okay.
Because I know that's gonna be scored less.
Yep.
So I would probably say, for all the reasons we've already said, it looked weird. I didn't really enjoy it. Comparisons to the other one, it was a no-brainer. The other one was better, more emotional, which I like in any piece of film or anything like that. So for me, I think it would probably be a 5. I don't think I'd rewatch it again.
No, that's fine. I did think you were going to go lower, to be fair, but
I feel like it's just mediocre. It's okay for what it is, and I think a lot of people will get enjoyment out of it. But if you're comparing it like we are, then I feel like it is definitely worse off, and I would not watch it again.
Okay.
To be honest, I've seen it now. It's the same story. If I was going to watch one of them...
It would be the actual original one.
Yeah. Like a lot of things, like with Disney, when they remake things and you just still watch the original because there was nothing wrong with the original.
Yeah.
So, Pokemon, the first movie, it gives you a lot of emotion. Yeah, they could have thought of a better title. The artwork's beautiful and the score is beautiful. Mm-hmm. And Pikachu is wonderful. And I would want to pet Pikachu. Mm-hmm. And I think if it can give you anything in the film where you would want something, or buy the merchandise, want a little plush Pikachu.
Which obviously is what they were also targeting for, but there we go.
Makes you really want something like that and that relationship. It gives you the story, and the meaning behind this is so much stronger, I feel.
Than people give it credit for, perhaps.
I feel like it's more portrayed as well in the remake, not in the remake, in the original, sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like they do give you the message of don't fight, it's not the right way to be doing it.
Yeah.
And to go with your heart, like, that message is quite strong, and it would be, I'd like to think if children were watching it, they would get something out of it. So for me, I am going to score it. That's my drum roll. Mm-hmm. Just for pure enjoyment alone, I'm going to say an 8.
Okay, yeah.
I don't want to overscore it. I couldn't say it was a 9 or a 10.
No.
Because I think I've scored others and I'm trying to be fair to other films. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But for my personal enjoyment and a little bit of the fact that you've grown to make me love Pokemon.
Yeah.
So, over to you. I'm expecting a 10 somewhere.
This is actually really difficult to...
I think you need to go with the remake first.
Yeah, possible. Now, I'm surprised you did go with a 5, really. I really did think you would go for a much lower scoring, really. And because I feel like, despite of what it is and, what it's all based around of, and it's still Pokemon, I still can't really give it much of a higher than a 5.
Yeah.
Or a 5, for that matter, really.
I think, to be fair, I think I was giving it a bit of a credit for its actual art. In the fact that, just for the Pokemons alone.
There is obviously that factor, so...
Hey, I'm not trying to sway you
here.
No.
No, but it's just more... I'm a bit shocked, but maybe you're giving it a bit more reprieve than I am. But based on what it means to me, how it comes across, and the only reason really for it's an accessible means of somebody who hasn't seen the first film or doesn't have access to the first film to experience the basis of what it's about. It's going to be a 4 out of 10.
Harsh. I was more generous.
That's what I mean. So I felt bad that for that fact of like you putting it that high and thinking maybe I'm being a bit more stingy with it. But being
middle for diddle, kind of like it's just a mediocre kind of thing.
It is mediocre, but it's just a bit under that for me. I don't certainly now see with Japanese track and English subtitles on it. I've no real desire to go back to this one. Now, if I want to watch it, I will watch the original.
Yeah, agreed.
And now this is even a bit more trickier to put into.
Go with your gut, because I gave The Notebook a 10, and I know some people won't think it is, but mine is nostalgia, and I love that film. So I was biased anyways with that. You gave it a 6, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I did give it a 6. Yeah, I don't think it's, even with nostalgia goggles on and stuff, I don't think it's really worth a 10 out of 10.
Is that because of the storyline, or is it just?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay for a storyline for a thing. It's nothing groundbreaking or anything like that. What really obviously appeals to me, it's fairly true to, well, certainly what the anime is anyway. There's obviously the funny quirks that it has in terms of like getting things wrong with the dubbing, which is, I guess, is like a funny factor about it. It's like, I see that they got that wrong. And there's also some other things like, I don't think you might not even notice, but there's like discolorations of some of the Pokemon and some of the frames. It's like mouth was blue or something on Gyarados' lips or something, where it's supposed to be pink or whatever, and things like that. So there's kind of like those funny things. It's like, they messed up there and stuff.
No, I don't think I noticed that one. The only thing I thought was, was it coughing?
Wheezing. But that was the lighting in the
water, yeah.
With the scenery. But definitely the score, as well, there's various points in it that are just fantastic, and I found them and got them on my phone as well, so I just listen to those now and again, and they're just great. They're really effective what they're doing, and obviously they hark back to that's from that scene, and that's I'm there like watching the film almost at that point. Definitely the 2D works in its favour, and I have a soft spot for that.
What about Pikachu?
What about him?
Do you get a little bit of love for Pikachu in this, or do you still hate him?
No. He's okay in this one.
Only okay. He's absolutely adorable. Okay, you've eked this out long enough now. Come on, give us a score.
Okay. The other people might be like, God, what are you doing saying this is for this score? But based solely on like personal enjoyment and all it means to me, I'm going to give it a 9.
Good. I'm glad. I'd have been disappointed if you hadn't.
Yeah, it might just be one of those guilty pleasure things, but it just means so much to me.
It's a childhood memory, and it's one of those nostalgia things. And to be fair, it is something that you love. It's kind of one of your big hobbies and passions. So if you just scored it any lower than that, lower than me, I'd have been like, okay, this is not you.
To put it into context, if it was going to be something like a very more critical side of things, it probably maybe like 6 going on 7, really.
Mm.
But if we're going solely on what's in your heart,
yes.
Then
why did you sound Irish?
listen to these guys in the film, like, oh,
I knew what you were going for, but it sounded Irish. Heart.
Heart.
But no, I think that's something. At the end of the day, these are our opinions. We try and be a bit critical, but we do. I know I do. I go massively on how it makes me feel. I play on my emotions, and you've got me. So, and that's what this film does for you.
Yeah, definitely.
So, hopefully, we'll be listening out, anyways. For any exciting Pokemon news, because there's normally something exciting, isn't there?
Obviously, by the time this comes out, it'll be leading up to the actual day, which is the 27th. That's 27th of February, which is when, obviously, the first released in Japan. So, it'd be interesting to know what's in the future for the next games or anything like that.
I'm sure we're due a game, aren't we, really?
Oh, they'll have something. For the 25th anniversary, is not going to be something major happening or announced anyway. So
if you do like Pokemon, then definitely check it out and keep an eye out for it. Also
check out the first one rather than the second. This Netflix adaptation. I think realistically, I really would recommend that one. But no problems if you decide to go and check out the Netflix one to get a basis and understanding of it. But I really do think you benefit from watching the proper one.
Yeah, no, I agree, but it definitely worth if you've got time.
Because obviously it's so accessible.
Doing a compare like we have, maybe not in the same day because it does feel like you're watching the exact same thing but worse. That's how I felt. I was like, this is 3 hours. An hour and a half was really good. I'm wasting an hour and a half of my life that I'm never going to get back watching exactly the same thing but worse. So it's entirely down to you, but yeah, definitely check them out.
This is how we spend our time.
We've not got much else to do, to be fair.
So, thank you for listening to this long-winded gushing over Pokemon session.
We wouldn't be us if we didn't.
Well, certainly me, really.
You make me love Pokemon because I love you.
Yeah.
Your love for Pokemon literally just kind of pours over me. And to be fair, I'd rather you love Pokemon than football because I never love football. Like, men's passion about football, it's like them getting angry and punching walls and crying.
This thing, Pokemon is kind of a universal thing. It appeals to all ages and
it really does. And it's so big and it's such a good franchise and it's cute little animals. Like, why would nobody not like that?
Yeah, people who've not grown up with it, I guess, from the get-go, it's a hard sell. But, kids still like it these days. It's still very popular.
Yeah, well, when we have a little kid, they're going to be obsessed, like their dad.
So, thank you, everybody, for listening. Please do go check out all our other episodes available on iTunes, Spotify, and Podbean.
Yep, definitely go and have a listen to us. Hopefully you'll enjoy us rambling on about loads of other films that aren't Pokemon based. Paul has also done brilliant work on our Instagram. He's getting his Instagram famous, are you? Is that what we call it? I'm trying to.
Trying to, yeah, slowly but surely. Yeah, we're creeping up on the numbers, which I'm very happy about.
So thank you very much for everything you've been doing and listening and supporting us. It means the world to us.
And next time you'll hear from us will be March, so hopefully our recurring theme for the future, because there'll be plenty of them.
I've just seen my face. You should take a picture. I'm like, what is this going to be every March?
Monster March. Been through so many.
I feel like this is a bit of a torture thing. We've got Monster March, and then you put me through Halloween as well, and then all I get is Christmas.
Well, we might be doing another Hitchcock one, so.
Yeah, but that benefits you too. Come on, don't even act like you don't.
True. But bear in mind, this is more about
torturing me. Is that what?
To put it in one way, yeah, I suppose. But more to do,
educational.
Education. Okay, so thank you very much, guys, and we'll speak to you next time for Monster Match.
Thank you very much, and we'll speak to you next time for the joyous Monster Match that Paul says.
Bye now.
See you later.
Bye.
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 Bye.